We're all going to die. This basic fact incites terror in children, instills a sense of dread in all, and brings forward a few questions. What are we supposed to do about it? What happens after? Although I can't quite answer those questions, in this video I hope to shine a light on the answers to this question in this classical world, as well as how it affected their thoughts, actions, and lives. Perhaps by observing this, we can then see what we want to do with our lives. The first place that comes to mind when talking about death in the Greek and Roman world is the underworld. It's a place commonly referenced in all kinds of mediums, like epic poetry and modern games, and is closely related to the idea of an afterlife in many religions. The underworld is a place for souls to go after they die. It's a place where sickness and death themselves tend to lurk in their free time, where legendary monsters rest, like Scylla, the Centaur, and the Hydra. It's a terrible place which instills dread in anyone who hears about it. As depicted in the Aeneid, the souls of the dead find their way to the Cactus, a river, and if they're properly buried, with a few handfuls of dirt and an oval under their tongue, or perhaps a nice funeral pyre with all their belongings, Charon, the ferryman of the dead, will bring them to the gates of the afterlife. Those who haven't been given their due will wander the shores for hundreds of years. From there, the souls pass through the gates, protected by Cerberus, guard dog of the underworld, and are sorted based off of what they did while they're alive. There are three major places where dead souls gather in the underworld: Asphodel, the fields of ash; Tartarus, the pit of suffering; and Elysium, the land of heroes. Asphodel is where most souls will live, wandering among the ashes forever. It's also the name of a flower that represented death to the Greeks, because it shared name with part of the land for the dead. These fields aren't a pleasant place to live. It's more like a sort of limbo, where you drift aimlessly for eternity. And Tartarus is for the souls who have deeply offended the gods. Those locked down here are punished for eternity because of their actions during their lives. The people suffer, but they also have the most interesting stories. Sisyphus, a king who not only killed travelers who were considered to be under Zeus's protection, but also tricked death twice, is punished here by rolling a rock up a hill, only for it to roll back down before he reaches the peak. Elysium is for heroes and demigods. Those who end up in Elysium are those who achieved great things in war, those who were famous. Kleos is the Greek word that describes this fame, and was needed in order to live in Elysium and to have a pleasant afterlife. The underworld promised a terrible future for all those who didn't live glorious and honorable lives by Greek standards. This resulted in a strong war culture in Greece, which also carried over to Rome. All of the men of these cultures lived pursuing a good afterlife, and the only way to do that was by going to war, honoring the gods, and honoring your people. These have a solid definition in the form of Roman virtues, which people were expected to embody if they wanted to reach Elysium. But, as it turns out, there is no good way to die. There's no better example of this than Achilles, who, during the Trojan War, had the choice between going home, living a long life, or going to war and dying, but achieving endless glory. He later chooses to fight and die, but Aeneas later encounters him during his journey through the underworld, and he says that he would rather be a slave on the earth than to rule over the dead. But if the man who has achieved everything that everyone seeks to achieve says that it's not worth it, what are you supposed to do with your life? What do we live for? Perhaps the answer can be found in Stoicism. Stoicism is an often misunderstood idea in our time. It's generally considered as a lack of emotion where people ignore their feelings in favor of moving forwards in life. But it's a bit more than that. Stoicism is an ancient Greek school of philosophy, and so, in our lives, could be viewed as more of a mindset. One based in the idea of not worrying about things that can't be changed, and instead taking hold of the things that can. It's the idea of taking problems in life and using them as opportunities to exercise the four pillars of Stoicism: courage, temperance, justice, and wisdom. Courage is the bravery needed to take action. Whether surmounting a new and massive obstacle or challenging the small, familiar troubles lingering in your life, this courage is demonstrated by taking action. Temperance is the balance, knowing when to stop, doing nothing in excess. If you exercise temperance, you'll find balance in your life. Justice is knowing what's right and what isn't. It's the compass that points your action in the right direction, the good direction. Wisdom is knowledge, and knowledge is power. With wisdom, you'll be able to make the things that you want to happen, using the power granted to you by the knowledge that you've acquired. Seneca is viewed as one of the greater Stoic thinkers, and in one of his letters he talks about the nature of the soul, as well as how you should view life and death. In this letter, he says that the soul is trapped in the body, and they'll be freed when you die. Therefore, you don't need to fear death. When you die, your soul will be born from your body just as you were from your mother, and in this pure form, it will be godlier than it has ever been before. Therefore, you shouldn't fear death, but instead look forward to it, knowing that the great things you achieved during your life will live on in the thoughts of others. The truth is, no one can predict what happens after you die. It's all speculation. However, after considering all these different opinions, you can learn a few things about how you might be able to live a more fulfilling life. Firstly, maybe you shouldn't concern yourself with things outside of your control. Doing such a thing will just waste your energy that you could put towards something that you find more satisfying. Secondly, value your actions and think about them deeply. Whether pursuing the essence of goodness step by step, or achieving massive glory, wherever that looks like in this day and age. Find something you want to do in your life and pursue it. Lastly, appreciate your life. No matter how bad things may be, remember Achilles. The most miserable life is better than the most glorious death. Thank you.